I hated silence and solitude.
You want to become somebody's mom.
Girl. God communicates to us through our feelings.
Yes.
When people around us have needs, we feel like we have to meet all of them.
The results.
Yeah.
Like, I am what I do.
Hey, beautiful people. I'm Tina Morales.
And I'm Kiara Johnson.
And welcome to the Stories That Shape Us podcast, where we dive deep into the stories that have shaped who we are and who we're becoming.
We are so thrilled to have you join us. We are here to engage openly in hard conversations around faith, identity, relationships, and so much more.
Yes. If you want to peek into the journeys of healing and becoming, then we invite you to listen in on the conversation and leave transformed. Get ready for thought-provoking conversation, a whole lot of heart, and join us on this journey through the stories that shape us. It's there. Okay, very good. Hello.
Hello, hello.
All right. I'm going to let you lead this one.
Yes, I was so excited about this. We talked a little bit about this book before, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And y'all, I read chapter 2. And I
Chapter
texted
2.
Tina. The book could have ended at chapter 2, y'all. It was so good.
Yeah.
It's about knowing your authentic self so that you may know God. So in this episode, I was super, super inspired. We were both inspired to talk about how to remove the false self.
Mm-hmm.
How to remove the false self. What is the false self? Like, so good.
Yes.
Good stuff in here.
Yeah. Like, I think this whole conversation is really important with the whole what is the false self?
What is the false self?
How do we know that we have a false self? But then also, like, how is it developed? I fix my mic.
I think what's good too is I'm glad we did an episode on faith and feelings. I'm glad we spent a lot of time on feelings, because I called out other things because we did talk about feelings, but I spent a lot of time talking about feelings and unmasking those feelings at the beginning of that chapter. Yeah. But I know we did that, and the importance of that, and how God's a feeling God, and how we cut ourselves short, our relationship short, and our relationships with God short when we mask our feelings, bury our feelings, or deny our feelings. So that is in here at the beginning.
Yeah. I think something I liked about that he said, so God thinks, we think. God wills, we will. God feels, we feel. But he also said, like, I can't remember where he said in the book, but God communicates to us through our feelings.
Yes.
And that one just I want God to be able to communicate to me however he can do so.
Yes.
He did it through a burning bush with Moses. He did it through, what else did he do it through?
I mean, so many ways.
No. He's just done it in so many ways. And I'm like, hello, this is inside of me.
And I'll touch one quote on the feelings.
Please.
Because you feel even if you are unaware of it. And I know you do a lot with mind and body. Yeah. And remembering how trauma impacts the mind and body. So you feel it. And I love this where it says, God speaks to us through a knot in the stomach, muscle tension, trembling and shaking, the release of adrenaline into our bloodstream, headaches, and a suddenly elevated heart rate. God may be screaming at us through our physical body while we look for and prefer a more spiritual signal.
Oh, come on.
The reality is that often our bodies know our feelings before our minds. So you feel, even if you're not aware of it. So I did want to shout out feelings.
Our bodies
didn't want to bypass feelings.
Yeah, our bodies know our feelings before our minds.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
We're so not consciously aware of it. Well, what an opportunity.
Yes.
What an opportunity to be aware.
So I did want to shout out the feelings.
Yeah.
And then as we think about false self, the main point where I put the book down for a second. I did that several times through chapter 2, y'all.
Through the book. Just through it.
He talks about the great temptations.
Oof.
And it's the little section that's called The Great Temptation Toward a False Self. These spoke to me, y'all. And I was curious, as you listen to this, maybe you identify with one in your life. So The first temptation is I am what I do performance.
Ugh.
That one spoke to me.
Yeah.
I very much, we've talked about this through the series, like the results.
Yeah.
Like I am what I do.
Yeah. How often, I mean, I think when you meet people nowadays, right? What do? I mean, what do you ask them? Hey, what do you do?
Right.
You ask them like
It's the
immediately.
number one thing, yeah.
Like not who are you? And sometimes we can meet people and we say, who are you? Well, I'm a therapist. No, that's what I do.
That's what I do, yeah.
Right? Or even like in childhood, like a child does something that is quote unquote good. You're such a good kid.
Yeah.
We define them based off of their behaviors or what they do, their performance.
Yep.
You're my superstar because you get all aces. Or you are man, we attach identity to performance and behavior.
Yep. Jesus. Y'all. Identity. This also connects to, I think, heavily removing the false self to reclaiming your identity.
Absolutely.
Yep. Before we touch on the rest of the temptations, I want to skip ahead to like Jesus's true self, because I think he was able to resist temptation. Because it says Jesus was secure in his Father's love in himself, and thus was able to withstand enormous pressure. Like that was who he was enough before he ever did anything. Anything.
Yeah. So we'll jump around.
Yeah.
Because I think a big part of that is Jesus was secure.
Yes.
And we've talked about attachment styles, right? This idea of having a secure attachment means that I am able to identify myself as separate from you, and I'm able to recognize my connection to you. So how I influence you.
Right.
And in that, I also can say, I can recognize like, hey, you have your own thoughts and feelings, and I have my own thoughts and feelings. And your thoughts and feelings don't threaten mine or my identity or who I am, because I'm secure in who I am.
Right.
Based off of, right? And so secure attachment, like usually your parents, what your parents have kind of that attachment that you've had. And I don't think I shared this with you, but the way to develop a secure attachment is these 4 S's of safety, feeling safe, soothed, seen, and secure. Right? So I feel safe with you.
Okay.
I feel soothed with you, right? So if something I'm struggling with, if I have a struggle, you soothe me.
Yeah.
And seen, right? So the seen is, you know who I am truly at my core.
Yep.
And you interact with me, you take interest in who I am. A good example of this is like, someone shared this example with me where, you know, with a parent, a lot of times we've seen like where the parent takes you to do what they're doing, what the parent is doing.
Yeah.
So they take the kid with them. They're like, hey, come with me as I go do these things. Right? That is the child being placed in the parent's world.
Yep.
Whereas if the child likes to play catch, play with some toys, have a tea party, right? And the parent engages with the child in that way, that's the parent seeing them.
Yes. Oh.
Right? And and engaging with them.
Yes, I've been doing that with my daughter.
I love it.
Like sometimes we just got our playpen, and I get in there with her.
Yeah.
And I'll play with her. I also bring her in to teach her stuff I do, like in the kitchen. But like I get in there with her. And she gets so happy. Like she'll think she's ready to get out, and I'll just get in with her. And I'll grab a toy, and like she's just the happiest. That scene, being seen. Yeah.
There's something like when all of those things, more often than not, are met, that safety, that security, that safety, that soothing, that seen, that does develop a secure attachment.
Wow.
You see me, you keep me safe, you soothe me when I'm struggling. for the most part, right? Because it's not about perfection, but for the most part, I'm secure in who I am because I'm also secure in who we are.
Yeah.
And I'm secure in who I am. So now I can go out and not be afraid of losing myself in someone else or be afraid of, not afraid or feeling like I have to, I've never used this word in language, usurp my, like I don't feel like I have to make you see me, keep me safe, soothe me.
Yeah.
It's so layered. It's so complex.
No, I like breaking that down.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus was secure in himself and his Father and his identity. We were talking about this because he didn't heal every single person. He withstood enormous pressure, made so many people angry, but still remained true to what he came to do. And I think that's powerful.
I was going to ask, why do you think that was? I mean, we've named this security, but maybe why do you think that we do? Like when people around us have needs, we feel like we have to meet all of them. Right?
Right. Why do we think we can? Why do we think we can't?
Well, one,
maybe because that our false self, I mean, we're choosing what we're putting on is like, okay, sorry, that's the third one. It's what people think of me. Yeah. What I do, that's where I find my worth. That's who I am, is what I do. And what people think of me. Yeah. I have to do their needs, or they're going to think I'm a failure, or
yeah. I was going to say, let's name the three temptations.
Performance, so what I do.
I am what I do.
Possession, I am what I have. And popularity, I am what people think of me. Yeah. I think it's one of those three that you're putting on.
Those three make us, or those three temptations kind of make us develop this false sense of who we are. Yes. Right? If I am what I do, then I'm going to work really, really hard at the things that I do. Yep. If I am what I have, then I'm going to constantly want to accumulate more. Right. If I am what others think of me, I'm going to be constantly trying to people please, meet their needs, do all those things. I'll tell myself that is me. That is no, it's not me. It's not me.
No, it's not you. Yep.
It's a temptation I struggle with.
Yes.
I love catching it in the moment. Yep. I love catching it in the moment.
Reword it.
Yes. It's a temptation I struggle with. Yeah. Right? Like, I want to please other people. Why? Because if I don't, the question or the threat is, if I don't please other people, then I'm afraid that I'm not going to belong. I'm afraid that they're going to reject me. I'm afraid that I'm going to be alone. And goodness gracious, I don't want to be alone. Right. And so it's so tempting to want to have others think well of me. And it's so hard to know that I can't meet everyone's need. I'm gonna disappoint you. Yep. I'm going to mess up. And how hard that is for me.
That's hard. It's knowing your worth, your value, and your worth outside of what you do, what you have, and what people think of you.
Yeah. That's the authentic self. Yeah. Knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. Point blank period outside of all those
things. I thought the differentiation was powerful.
Teach us. Tell him.
So, Differentiation, it refers to a person's capacity to define his or her own life's goals and values apart from the pressures of those around them.
Differentiation is a term in family systems theory that pretty much says, the way that I'd like to define it, is the ability to think and feel and desire in the presence of someone else's thoughts, feels, and desires. Right? I don't have to feel threatened if my thoughts, feelings, and desires are different from yours, nor do I need your thoughts, feelings, and desires to be like mine, or mine have to be like yours.
Harder said than done. And how much conflict comes from that and can come from that.
No, it does.
Yeah.
It does. That's the thing, right? Conflict is present when there's two different opinions, thoughts, feelings. Like, conflict exists, period. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It exists.
Right.
And so
that's what's hard. Some of us, I think, can kind of succumb to the conflict and just say, oh, I'm going to put me away.
Yeah.
And just let myself become more like you, or what you want me to be, instead of allowing myself to stay.
Yeah.
Differentiated.
Different. Yes. Different. Because being able to have your separateness with your togetherness with someone truly is like, I think that's like the mystery, the gift, the beauty of what it means to be not just a Christian, but like, I think that's how God made us. He made us different on purpose. Because we complement each other. If we're all the same, then we can't complete or do other things, right? Like, he calls us each for a different purpose.
Right.
There was another thought that I had, though, I wanted to share. Forget what it was.
He does. Like, it's hard, I think, to maintain that differentiation. Like, he talks about, like, family, like you said, family systems, and how that conflict arises when that one person in the family decides to be different than how their family thinks that they should be.
Yeah. How that brings up, that's going to create conflict. Think about, like, the status quo.
Oh, yeah.
Think of the status quo. If you ever try to do anything different from the status quo, it's going to create tension.
Yes.
Right? So what do you do with tension? What is your relationship to tension? Because that's a relationship in and of itself.
Yep.
Some families, our relationship to tension is always present. We don't know how to do peace.
Why you call them out like that?
Right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, real quick. Are you sick and tired of getting into the same fights with your partner over and over again? Are you sick of feeling misunderstood and disconnected? If so, I get it, which is why I created an ebook just for you. In Crushing Conflict, you're going to get a guide about how to get out of the chaos. You're going to learn why you keep getting stuck in the same cycle over and over again. You're going to learn how to get unstuck with several practical tools. And you're going to learn how you can create lasting change in your relationship. If that's you, I invite you to click the link in the description below and grab your copy today. I hope that blesses you. There are some people who have a relationship with conflict that's like, avoid it. We don't ever go there. And for others, the relationship to conflict is, we don't exist without it. What you mean there's no conflict? You know? So it's so complex. It's not just the presence of it. It's not just the presence of conflict. It's how you relate to it.
It's how you navigate it.
Yeah. This is what it was. Having a non-anxious presence in the midst of conflict. right? So what does that mean? This is something that like part of like our training program, really they try to teach us having a non-anxious presence, right? So like, what does that mean? Like, I can sit with you. I can hear and experience your experience without it threatening our relationship, and being able to have the space, right? So I don't have an agenda with you. My whole goal is to be able to listen, to be able to give you a space.
Right.
And even if your experience is counter mine, I don't have to convince you that your experience needs to be mine. And I don't have to be afraid of the fact that your experience isn't mine. It's okay. It's kind of like the conversation we were having about creating space for another perspective.
Yep.
Just being non-anxious in that, right? I think there's a part of that that's, yes, being secure in who you are, soothing your body. You have to know what you're feeling to be a non-anxious presence.
Yeah. Which ties into so after he explains this, what I liked is that's one of the first things he names is like getting alone and solitude, being able to hear your voice. I appreciate quietness and solitude so much for that reason. Because there's so many like when you're married, you hear your husband's voice, parents, everyone's like it. I love getting a chance to be alone and saying, okay, let me think for a second. Let me think about what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Let me think about what I'm feeling. Let me feel what I'm feeling.
All
the things.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is that you liking to be in the silence and the solitude?
Yes.
Is that something that like, has it always been that way, or is that something that's newer in your life?
Always.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I better deal with conflict when I have a minute to just sit with myself. I refocus, I recharge. I mean, I enjoy being alone in general, but definitely when life gets challenging, when I'm feeling pressure from circumstances, from people, I have to be able to get alone and like let my thoughts quiet down, give myself a minute to pray, to hear God's voice or just a feeling in my heart. Like, I cherish that. I'm so glad he named that first. I cherish like the silence and solitude. Yes.
It's so funny I asked that question because until recently, like until parts of my adult life, I hated silence and solitude.
Me and Tina always talk about how she's like my husband and I'm similar to her. She's just that's awesome. Like to learn that how different people are wired. Like I love it. I love it. Oh,
this is why we function so well together. But no, I seriously hated it. And I will share why.
That's so fascinating.
I hated it. There was a season of my life where Sundays were the worst. This is my single season. My single season.
Yeah.
What's up? But I hated Sundays because Sundays is when things started to really slow down and really quiet down, and I had to be with myself. And I couldn't. I always tried to run from being with myself for so long. Because I felt like being alone was evidence that no one wanted me.
No.
Like,
wow.
it literally felt like it was evidence of my unworthiness.
Really? Wow.
Like that's what I thought it was. And I will never forget, there was one Sunday where, man, I'm a journaler. So there was one Sunday where I went to church. I was watching the football game. I was doing some homework. Had moments where I was watching church online, and I was like doing worship in my living room and like, doing all this stuff. And I was in grad school. And I remember like that day was the first day that I felt comfortable being with myself. And it was I really felt like for the first time that like the Holy Spirit spoke to me. And this is where I think it's because God is speaking to you, I think, all the time. We're just not listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And for me, I wasn't listening because I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
But I felt like God spoke to me like, in my solitude is where I have the most sacred space to be with him. And I think for me, that took so long for me to like be okay with.
Wow.
Nowadays, as an adult.
Yeah.
Well, I was an adult then too.
Yep.
But at this point in my life, I think honestly, I think it was even a struggle when I got married. I thought when I got married, I was never gonna have to be alone again.
Yeah.
But realizing like, no, it's almost like an invitation. God's like, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
Can I be with you? And the way that I get to be with you is when you're in silence and you're in solitude.
Yep.
And that took me so long.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked, because like there's a sense of for you, like you enjoy it.
It was my safest place. In my safest place.
Yeah.
Dealing with stuff. It was my safest place when I could get by myself. And I felt safe. And whether I was talking to God or not, it just felt like safe. And then as my relationship with God has grown, it's more intentional. Yeah. It's always felt like my safest place.
I love it.
Yeah.
What, as much as you're willing to share, would you say like there was a part of it that, or what made it your safest place? I guess that's the question.
What did make it? I think we've talked about this, like having, being in a divorced household. That's hard for a kid going through that.
Absolutely.
Witnessing that. And I think a lot of it could stem from that, is like having to witness your family go through that change. All the emotions, the different sides, the different perspectives, the different feelings. And like, you're just a kid. I didn't need to hear or know half of it.
Yeah.
And my safest place was by myself. I think that's how it started.
Real. Oh, that's real.
And it's how it started, where I could just kind of, in that moment, be a child and just daydream and read. Yeah. I used to play in this little corner in my house, that whole room, but just this little corner.
Love it.
And I felt quiet and stillness. No being put in the middle of anything. No, nothing. No distractions, no pressure. I could kind of just, when we talk about that, the things that people want you to be, I could just be a kid. And I've just cherished that quiet space until to like looking at you right now.
Yeah, that's good.
And get away from all expectations of others on me. I got up at like 6 this morning and I just went in the closet and did yoga for like 15 minutes and everyone was asleep. So so quiet. And I was just like, I've had such a great day, y'all. Yeah. Just quiet time. I cherish it. I do.
Yeah. It's, I think there's something beautiful about that, right? Because that solitude, I think, because at this point in my life, I also cherish it. Like I think it's so beautiful. But even as you came over today, I noticed that I said, the more the merrier that comes over. I love the noise, right? And how, for me, same thing, divorce household, but my experience being when my parents divorced, everything got real quiet. There was so much more solitude, right? And how for me, the desire of connection was like, that to me felt like that's when the peace was.
I love your wow.
It's just such a different experience.
Totally.
So again, Taj is very similar. So me and Taj have had conversations. For him, he's just like, he's the same. He loves his alone time. He's just like, I want my silence, my solitude. Like he desperately, for him, that's like, he just wants peace.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, I noticed it. I was like, I hear what you want, And for me, my peace is very similar, but like I want peace also.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, peace is connection.
Mm-hmm.
Peace is everyone is together. Everyone is just loving on each other. That for me was peace.
I think that's so amazing. I don't know if I should admit this because like for me, like humans generally feel like unsafe sometimes. So
Sure,
I think
yeah.
that like because we talked about honesty a couple episodes ago, and when you haven't had a history of being able to do conflict in a healthy manner, humans, the presence of another human, not all of them, but it can kind of feel like threatening to me. And so I think that's too probably stemming from just conflict, unhealthy conflict, where I'm just like, ooh, I just want to go be by myself. So I think that's amazing. I think that it's beautiful to find that. And I do. What's funny is the second one says find trusted companions. So I don't think solitude on its own at all is the answer. And I don't think always being around people is the answer. It's definitely a balance.
It says that actually on that page. There's a
let the person who cannot be alone beware community. Let the person who is not in a community beware of being alone.
Right.
Like, amen.
Right. Like notice like what is your natural bend?
Yes.
Right? Like what's your natural bend? Would I rather be alone or would I rather be with people? And noticing that that's kind of like your safe space.
Right.
Right? And to learn to be comfortable with whatever the other one is for you. Right. So for me, I had to learn to be comfortable with and learn to cherish that solitude and that silence. I remember reading a book on leadership and it was just like the very first thing was about solitude and silence. And I was like, no.
Yeah. I was so upset. Like, no, just full rejection. No.
I was so upset. And yet it's exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, right, like if you're more comfortable with being alone and like that's kind of like your natural bend.
Yep.
Recognizing like, man, that community, that connection with other people is probably what you need.
Yep.
To really uncover and unveil your true self, right? Like we go to our natural bends because that's what we're familiar with.
Right. We do. And the blessing of community. So when I do have my like periods of, not periods, I don't just be alone, but like for long periods of time. I do have my moments of solitude.
Like 3 months, please.
Right. When I do have my moments of solitude, I do think it's important to invite God in that space because what's crazy, and I think the way they bring in trusted companions that can even help you with your authentic self is because sometimes you can be your own worst enemy and you can get stuck in this echo chamber of not great things. Yeah. And so I think that that's why like my life exploded since even being with my husband who's big on community. And my life has opened up because of wonderful people like you and like a few close friends I have. So no, there's a balance.
Yeah. No, there is. And I think there's a big part of this, right, where what we're talking about, right, is how we develop our false.
I can't speak today.
Right. How we develop our false selves. And I think for a majority of us, we're walking around in the world with a mask on in terms of the way that we're walking around with a mask on that's going to keep us the quote unquote safest. Because again, if we really think about as humans, what do we want? Safety or danger? Safety, right? So we walk around with the mask that's going to keep us the safest. And what keeps us the safest is based off of our lived experience and what we've, our childhood, all the things, right?
Yep.
We learn what is safe. And so the thing is, your false self is developed, but your authentic self, like who you truly are, is discovered. It's unveiled. It's not developed. It's already in you. God made you, masterpiece.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I think he's calling you to come out of hiding.
Girl. Girl, number 3, move out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There's this one underlying when she said, come out of hiding.
Yeah.
Inside you, there's an artist you don't know about. If you are here unfaithfully with us, you are causing terrible damage. If you've opened your loving to God's love, you are helping people you don't know and have never seen. Like, this world needs you. You.
Yeah. Not the you think is needed, just you.
And truly, yep. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that requires vulnerability.
Yeah. I touched on that one too. It does.
Yeah.
She on it. She on it. First one is like, pray for courage. It takes courage to be vulnerable. It is not easy, especially when your safety's been challenged. When there's so many reasons we put on a false self.
Yeah. And courage. Let me tell you something about courage. This is the way I think about courage, because I'm terrified of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't usually stop me from moving forward.
No.
And I think that's what courage is.
It is, totally.
Courage is moving forward with fear, in faith.
Yep. Girl. Oh, honey.
I think sometimes we think we got to get rid of fear.
Mm-mm. And I think I do most things afraid.
Yeah.
I'm probably afraid, like, not most days, a good amount of days. And I'm doing something new
all the time.
Like, seriously. It doesn't mean being courageous doesn't mean you do it once fear is gone at all. No, you're doing it in spite of fear for sure.
Yeah. Fear starts to minimize as you walk in faith, as you walk into it. That's why someone's courageous, right? Like, I know Brene Brown talks about this all the time. Like, you don't look at somebody and say they were courageous unless they did something that seemed terrifying, that they were terrified of. And being who you truly are, I will speak for myself. Being who I truly am, one, is so vulnerable, because again, I want to be wanted. I want to belong. I think that's just like the human experience, right? Like, we want to belong with the people that we're in, the people that we're in relationship with. And I lost my train of thought. I've been doing this all day.
Oh no.
Being our true selves. This is where I'm referring to it for me. Sometimes is going to disappoint people. Growing up, being a people pleaser, doing my best to avoid conflict, I didn't want to disappoint anyone at all. So I would literally be this false self with the temptation of what other people think, right? I would be this false self to please others. And trust and believe, when I have started to shift that, it has caused conflict. But the people that I've known, sometimes with the people I've known for the longest time.
Yeah.
And being willing, not trying to, but being willing to be okay with disappointing people, I think has been one of the hardest struggles for me as I go through this journey of just being truly who I am.
That part. Yeah, you talked about how it's caused like space in your relationships. It talks about it again under Pray for Courage. Talks about that differentiation again. Emphasizes that in families there is a powerful opposition when one member of that system matures and increases his or her level of differentiation. So sometimes as you become more and more you, your authentic self, it creates conflict, sometimes with those you love the most.
Yeah. The hope side of that, though, is that it also brings a whole lot of clarity. A whole lot of clarity.
I love that when it brings clarity and like you're here doing what you're called to do. And I love backing up a little bit where it says Jesus was not selfless. And I read that. I told Tina almost through the book. Because when I think of Jesus, I think of the ultimate sacrifice he made. But it says he was not selfless. Like, he did not live as if only other people counted.
Girl, preach
He knew
it.
his value and worth. He had friends. He asked people to help him. That's amazing. Like, now, if Jesus could do that, and he didn't, like I said, didn't heal everyone. He didn't please everyone. Conflict galore. But you knew who he was because identity was in his
galore. I'm sorry. Yes.
Conflict galore. But he knew who he was.
Yeah.
And that enabled him to just resist that pressure. Fulfill his mission, his calling.
Yeah.
What you're here on this earth to do. What this world needs you for. But your authentic self.
This is the thing. Sometimes the very people, when I'm living out what God has called me to do.
Yeah.
And I'm being my true self. And it causes conflict with you, with this person that's right across from me. Let's say that it causes, I'll use marriage. I'll use marriage. This is what it is. When I am being more and more me, honest, open, transparent, vulnerable, right? With who I am and with who God's called me to be, with my feelings, with my needs, with my thoughts, it's going to cause conflict with my partner.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's exactly what my partner needed.
Girl. Yeah. Girl.
Because
I mean that
go ahead.
That's also what Jesus did. Yeah. You being yourself sometimes bring about necessary change in someone else. Like they need you. They needed that. Catalyst, yeah.
Conflict is like that zone of like change. Right? Like we don't change without conflict. We don't.
We do not.
If everything is going smooth, we don't change. Usually, if you think through your life, think about the times where you've had a drastic change in your life.
Mm-hmm.
There was some sort of conflict that happened. Maybe it was something that happened in your business. You came across an obstacle. There was a problem. That was a conflict.
Yep.
And it grew you in a way that you would have never grown if you hadn't gone through that conflict.
Right.
Right? Same thing in our relationships, in our marriage, right? There are some times my partner says something to me and I'm like, oh, how dare you? And then I realize, like, that's when my partner is true to who he is, it becomes almost like a model for me. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes we're offended because I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have been true to me. But he's true to him. That's actually the very thing that I need to grow. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe it's that iron sharpens iron, which I'd imagine doesn't feel good to either piece of iron. But like, yeah,
the little piece
you need that.
You need that conflict. Jesus did it all.
The catalyst for change. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it fascinates me how much Jesus disappointed people, because the overarching theme is that Jesus was such a loving and compassionate savior.
Right. There's so much more to the story. Yeah.
Because he was.
He's all of that.
And people were offended by him. People were offended by him. I think I'm harping on this because for me, sometimes it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard that, like, truly what I feel and think, I'm so afraid. Because I'm like, oh, but that might offend them.
Got you. Yeah.
Oh, that might disappoint them.
Yeah.
Oh, that might make them walk away.
Yeah. I think that's why it's one of the great temptations. you will continue to make yourself small, dim your light.
Yeah.
Because of those fears.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I get why those are the steps he gave, because it is hard. It's a practice.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, like even survival of the fittest, like literally in nature, people, like there are animals that will camouflage to match their environment to be safe. Like,
oh girl, talk about, that was an amazing connection.
Yeah. Like it is like, to survive feels dangerous. And like, in a sense, it's like, I wouldn't say, like Jesus, it wasn't dangerous being who he was.
I mean,
he made religious leaders mad, the government, like you name it. But his security and safety was in God. So I think it's where you're placing, your sense of security and safety. But like it, it feels very natural to put on a false self. It feels very natural to want to blend in. And
it is putting on a false self is a form of survival.
It is a form of survival.
Self-preservation.
Yes.
I think sometimes we can use the word survival and people are like, I don't need to survive, I'm fine. Like, like everything's okay. No, what we're talking about is self-preservation.
Right.
That's what it is. Right? You adapt for whatever reason by, what was it? Possessions? You adapt.
Performance.
Possession.
Popularity.
Yes. You will adapt in some of these ways to preserve your sense of self. And yet when you have a strong sense of self, you don't feel that pressure to adapt. And so you can actually be a very non-anxious presence in the room with someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Which gives them the permission to also be fully who they are.
You know what, Tina? I might have a secure attachment. Thank you, parents. Like, I know, like, it's seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you can be steadfast in yourself outside of those pressures that you face every day. From people you love too. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Not just outright enemies, but people you love. Like that pressure can come from there.
Right.
To do a certain thing, be a certain way, you can stay steadfast in who you are.
Yeah. And that, man, that's the thing. This is what I love about growing in secure attachment. Right? Like growing in secure attachment reduces your level of anxiety.
It does. It's so freeing. It's so freeing.
And it also increases your confidence to step towards conflict.
Yeah.
Right? Like it reduces anxiety and increases your leaning in. Your ability to say, I'm going to step into this conflict. Because at the end of the day, my sense of self isn't threatened here. Right?
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's happened a lot since, like, I don't know, birthing a child.
Ooh.
I have, like, when you become somebody's mom.
Girl.
There's just so many layers, but I feel that. I feel that higher sense of confidence, higher sense of willingness and ability to do conflict without me being my authentic self being challenged. I don't know if other women have had that experience once they've given birth. But
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be curious about that.
Yeah. It's like a shift. I think I was already there, but really like I'm so good with me. Yeah. And I'm so willing to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Because it's not challenging. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oof. Yeah, that's a whole nother level I can only imagine.
Yes.
Yikes. Oof. Anything else with this when it comes to this false self and this your authentic self, like truly who you are?
Yeah, I think we touched on the main pieces that stood out to me in the book, and just definitely wanted to offer that for reflection, like what you think you struggle with when it comes down to performance, possession, or popularity, and kind of how you would tackle those things or start to kind of develop or bring about that authentic self with, solitude and finding trusted people and getting out of your comfort zone and being courageous. And this book, you still got to read it, y'all. I mean, that was just like 1% of the gold in this book, but literally impacted me. What about you?
Oof. I don't know. I mean, for me, this is such a reminder for me, I think, in terms of why I started living in light.
Mm-hmm.
Because living in light was truly this whole idea of come out of hiding.
Yep.
Like, be truly who God has made you to be. Like, be free in that. Mm-hmm. Because truly when you are, and I just truly feel like we're called to so much more, called to higher things. And at the end of the day, it's not about you. So when you can be truly who you are, what you're doing is you're creating a bridge for people to also be themselves.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're supposed to do.
Right. Yep.
And love people in that, in their differences. And not be threatened by it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my mind was going at the end.
That's a great reminder.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all pray on that. Reflect on it.
Yes.
If you like silence and solitude, maybe lean into some trusted community.
Yep.
If you love trusted community, maybe lean into some silence and solitude. But yeah, let us know what you think. Love y'all. See ya.